What is going on? It's Megan Holiday right here at the world famous KROQ, and I'm here with one of my favorite humans on the planet, the one and only Bishop Briggs.
Hello.
Hello, darling.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you.
I know, always so good to see you. Got to see you perform recently, which was awesome.
In an airplane.
In an airplane. That was one of the most mind-blowing experiences. How was that as a performer?
Oh my gosh. Well, I got to go out on the wing.
Yes.
Which of course, like the me that isn't performing looks at that and is like, I won't do that. And then the me on stage is like crawling down it and like pointing at people. Like, I don't know what happens when I get on there, but it was great.
It was so epic. I know I went out on the wing too, and I thought it was going to be scarier than it was, but I felt very good.
Yeah, we should try it during a flight or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Why not?
Feeling a little risky.
Yeah.
So I want to congratulate you on your new album. Tell my therapist I'm fine.
Thank you.
Yes. 5 years since your last album.
Crazy.
I feel like this one is your most, vulnerable, raw, personal album.
Oh,
yeah. Is that accurate? Would you say?
I'm glad that that's your takeaway. I mean, the whole origin of the album really began with this session with Travis Barker, of all people. Crazy.
Oh my God.
And this was right before lockdown. And it was probably like my last session before lockdown, just to give an idea of how long this album has taken. And I remember leaving that session being like, wow, that was so liberating to sing in that way, to write in that way. But like, this must be for a different artist. And I actually got the chance to play that song for my sister. She had just started treatment, and I got to like see her reaction to it. And I think consciously or subconsciously, I found myself kind of chasing that feeling throughout the making of the album, Yeah.
Yeah. So how did it come about working with Travis, and what would you say your main takeaways were from working with him?
Okay. First of all, I have no idea. Second of all, I was working with MDDN at the time. And so that would be Benji Madden.
Oh, okay.
And which just like, so cool. I mean, me and my sister just like freaked out over that. So Benji Madden from Good Charlotte. And with that, there was something about that made Travis think I'm sane, I believe. And so then I got invited to a session, and I was just in disbelief the whole time. I think my biggest takeaway from it, I maintained my cool for a little bit. And then when he played, it was like, oh, okay, it's done. Like a tear came down, and I was just like, you're so good at what you do. I mean, he is just so incredible, so respectful. Like, I felt so safe working with him, which, as you know, as a woman is like so weirdly rare. Mm-hmm. And I think my biggest takeaway was just whatever you are most passionate about, become an expert at that. I loved writing with him, but seeing him play was like a whole other version of songwriting. Like the things that he came up with on drums, I would have never thought of. I couldn't come up with any of that. So it was remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah, because drums are really the backbone of
100%.
the song, and it can just be the most slight, drum fill or whatever that can really, take a song to the next level.
Yes. He's so down to earth too. Like there was something that we were going to add at the end of the song. And again, somehow thought I was sane. So I had his number through a mutual friend of ours. And I just wrote to him and said, hey, no pressure at all, but we'd really love to redo this end part. We're thinking of building it up or whatever it was. At the time, I truly blacked out. And he wrote back, I'll get this to you in an hour.
Dude.
I mean, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
He's
sent
the
it, and it was
best.
incredible. And yeah.
Oh, I love it. And that one's called Isolated Love,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Thank
Dude,
you.
it's so well done.
Thank
This
you.
whole album is just so amazing because it's like genreless, and there's really beautiful kind of dreamy pop moments. And then one of my favorites is Shut It Off.
Oh,
because
yay.
it feels super punk rock, and especially when you perform it live, that's when it really kind of, packs that punch.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that one is so much fun to sing. I mean, even now talking about it, I'm still on the journey of like owning those words that I'm saying in it. But basically, I'm just trying to like call out the men in the music industry that I worked with, and just basically like writing from like 22-year-old me, like writing for her. That was really fun to do. It was.
Being able to say the things now that you
Yes.
would have wanted to say then.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
That's so funny. I didn't know that. And that song really connected for me. So, yeah, it's interesting.
My gosh.
Yeah.
So you get it.
And when you were on stage in the airplane, you were you were talking about how a lot of this album and when you were writing, like you kind of said earlier, was inspired by these bands that you would listen to, with your sister. So what is it sort of about? Well, if you can name just maybe a few of those bands and what it is about that music that you were trying to capture.
Oh my gosh. Well, My Chemical Romance is like a huge one. Paramore, no doubt. I mean, I think it was interesting. Like growing up, I was really into Motown music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin. And then as I got older and like the music that my sister introduced me to, I found that I was still drawn to these truth tellers, but in a totally different way, more of like a Janis Joplin vibe. And so, yeah, I mean, I've covered those bands for years, and yeah, just such a huge fan. Good Charlotte being one of them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've really kind of watched your dreams come true with working with some of these people.
Yes.
And of course, Blink just being,
so.
Oh
my God.
So
I mean, I feel like that goes without saying.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with this album, something that I noticed is with the album cover, it's these like 5 different versions of you. And then I also couldn't help but notice you have like the really long braid.
Yes.
But then for your video for My Serotonin, you're like cutting it off.
Yes.
So can you give a little bit of what the theme is behind all this stuff?
Okay, I love that you're asking this. Well, I mean, for a long time, I feel like hair has really represented femininity or like our perspective on it. And weirdly, I have now had the experience of like having a fully shaved head and having hair, and I got treated completely different in positive and negative ways. And it was also like a big tie to like when I started out, like I had my hair in buns all the time. And yeah, so I think going from that, of having all these different versions be connected, and the whole album is supposed to look like, okay, is there self-sabotage going on? Is there self-love going on? Like these different versions of myself. And then with My Serotonin, it was like, release it all. That was supposed to be the energy. Like the braid is undone and we are cutting it all off. Those were real scissors, by the way. And again, as I told you, like once I'm in it, like once I'm performing, I'm so in it. So originally when I saw the scissors, I was like, oh no. And then like when we started, all of a sudden I was cutting all my hair. Everyone was very nervous.
Yes. It was very intense.
Yes.
You were fully committed.
Yes.
But that's such the thing that we all love about you is that you truly are singing from the depths of your soul. And it's like on this album, I felt like I could really feel your pain. And it was very relatable,
Thank you.
And My Serotonin is the single right now. And when I was listening to it, I was like, I wonder if this one is about, like heartbreak or relationship or missing someone. And then I read that it's actually about you missing your baby.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my sweet baby. Yeah, I've been really fortunate that I get to spend all my time with my baby. And randomly there was this thing I had to do in New York, and it didn't make sense for the baby to come, and it was sort of going to be in and out, but it was basically 24 hours without the baby. And I was just such a cliche walking through New York, like singing that verse into my phone and just realizing that like I fundamentally have changed, and like that's a really positive thing. But I wanted the song to really have this sort of uncomfortable yearning. And I actually wrote that with this artist named Skylar, and she came in and I just sort of had like a bunch of these voice memos from New York. And the first thing she told me was, I'm a mom and like it's my favorite thing I do. And, like it's a big part of who I am. And like I've changed so much since becoming a mom, like for the better. And I was like, oh my God, okay. Well, then this is the person I was destined to write this with. So I started playing it for her. And she just was the best person to write it with. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It all really came together on this album.
Yeah,
it sounds
did.
like. Yeah. And working with John Feldman a little bit on this too, which is, right up there with, all of those artists that you grew up listening to and loving, like the perfect producer to come in and work with.
Yes. Do you follow him on Instagram?
Yeah, I know. I actually know him. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
he's wonderful.
He's a wonderful, perfect human. And if you do follow him on Instagram, which I know you do, if I'm just saying, okay. He posts these videos where he's hiking and he just says, "I love my life." And it's just, I can't tell you how much joy these videos bring me. But he also is just so supportive. Like, I'll have like a little pop-up show and I'll be like, "Hey, like this is happening, like no problem." And he'll be there, and just, a really, really special person.
He totally
I'm pretty
is.
obsessed with him.
He has like an energy level that I would die to have.
That's why I think I wrote my most positive song I've probably ever written with him, which is "Here Comes the Flood," where it's just sort of like, hey, like I never knew it could be this good. And, I wasn't in that space when I wrote it, but like I felt his energy so intensely that I was like, wow, I long for that.
Yeah. So me and you, same feelings. John Feldman, you're the man.
Yes, he is.
What are maybe some of the takeaways that you would want people to feel when they're listening to your album?
Ooh, there's a song on there called "Growing Pains."
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that that's sort of the theme of the album. I think I'm always sort of trying to think of how to explain to my baby, like, that there's such horrible things that can happen in life, but such beautiful things as well. And you won't be prepared for either. But I'm so glad, I don't want to cry, but I'm just so glad that, like, I like loved fully with my sister. There's this, I love Dr. Brené Brown so much. She talks about how she, interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people on vulnerability. There was this man she was speaking to, and he'd been married for 40 years. And he decided to live his life in a way where he didn't fully get sad and he didn't fully get happy, so that he would never really be hurt in any way or let down. So he really like lived middle of the road. And randomly, really unexpectedly, his wife got in a car crash and died. And his first thought was, man, I wish I had leaned into the pain. I wish I had leaned into the joy. I'm going to cry. But I hope that for my baby. Yeah. Just to, fully lean in. Even if you learn that life can be difficult, I'm just so glad that, like, I told my sister every single day how obsessed I was with her. So I don't know what the summary of that is, but growing pains.
It's so beautiful. And to be honest with you, I really needed to hear that from you today. Because it's life is so hard, and we're, kind of conditioned to run away all the time from our pain and be like, numb it, how do I get away? And I'm an addict, and like, as you know, in recovery, and I have to sit in it now, and it's really hard. So I really love that, the whole theme of this is just like lean into the pain, like sit with it.
100%.
It's okay. And it's going to pass. Like something I always have to remind myself is like, everything's going to pass.
Yes. And you know this, like through sobriety, and I, out of respect for my sister, did the same. And it's very raw, like you're not numbing it in any single way. You can find other ways, of course, other than drugs and alcohol. Like, I'm not taking away from that. But it's a completely, it's a very difficult experience. Yeah. Yeah, both have their horrible things, horrible roots. Yeah.
Well, I'm just so happy for you. It's so great to, just see you back doing your thing.
Thank
you. You've got a show coming up at the Terragram on March 13th. And everybody has to go listen to your new album, Tell My Therapist I'm Fine. Bishop Briggs, thank you so much.
Love you.
I love you.
You're the best.
You're the best.